So, when you hear that phrase, the fear of the Lord, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's something like awe, or maybe a deep respect. And that's not wrong. But what if I told you that's only scratching the surface? We're about to dive into a concept that is so much deeper and honestly, way more transformational than you might think. And this right here is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It can be so confusing. We're told we should fear God, but then we're also told that we shouldn't. And this isn't some new age dilemma. This tension is baked right into the scriptures themselves. So where does all this confusion come from? Well, it comes from what looks like a flat-out contradiction. It feels like we're being given two completely different sets of instructions on how we're supposed to relate to God. Let's just put the verses side by side so you can see how stark this really is. Okay, and there it is, right in black and white. Proverbs tells us that fear is the starting point for wisdom. It's essential. But then, fast forward to 1 John, and we're told that perfect love actually gets rid of fear. So, what gives? How can both of these possibly be true? Are we supposed to hold on to fear, or are we supposed to drive it out? To really get this, we have to understand what fear actually looked like in these biblical stories. It wasn't just a quiet nod of respect, not even close. We're talking about descriptions of people literally falling down, trembling. It was this overwhelming, all-consuming encounter that created a massive sense of distance because of God's sheer power. It was anything but a casual hang. And that brings us right back to the central puzzle. If the experience of God's presence could make people tremble and fall on their faces, how on earth do you square that with a love that's supposed to kick fear to the curb? It really feels like you have to pick one or the other. But there's a key that unlocks this whole thing. The answer isn't about picking one verse and throwing the other one out. It's about a huge fundamental shift, a turning point that completely redefines the relationship. The solution is found in this incredible concept that changes fear from being a wall that keeps you out into a bridge that lets you in. Okay, so here's the crucial insight. The fear of the Lord isn't something that love just erases or gets rid of. That's the common mistake we make. The reality is something way more interesting, way more dynamic. The fear doesn't disappear. Its entire nature gets transformed. And the one thing that makes that transformation possible is this single word: access. This one idea changes everything. So this idea creates a completely new way of relating to God. What does it actually mean for fear to be transformed by access? Well, it means we get to have something that seems impossible. We get to be incredibly close without ever losing our sense of awe. So let's define what we mean by access. We're talking about this new ability to actually draw near to God. This closeness doesn't get rid of the awe, but it totally changes it. That raw terror you feel from a distance, it gets transformed into a deep, intimate reverence, a feeling you can only have when you're actually close to someone. Think about it like this. The old way was all about fear from a distance. You just couldn't get too close. But the new way, it's all about closeness. And this is so important, it's a closeness that never becomes casualness. It's not about being overly familiar or losing respect. Understanding this helps us dodge two really common mistakes. On one side, you have the pitfall of terror, which makes you want to run away from God. But on the other side, you've got the pitfall of casualness, where you start treating God like he's just ordinary, stripping away all the wonder. The sweet spot is living right in that healthy tension in the middle. Okay, this is a pretty powerful concept, right? But how does it actually show up in our day-to-day lives? Let's get really practical and break it down into two simple steps you can start applying today. The two big areas where this idea of reverent access can completely reshape our lives are in the decisions we make and in the way we pray. Let's tackle each one. First up, your decisions, big or small. Before you make a choice, just pause and ask yourself this one simple but really powerful question. Is this decision reflecting the awesome reality of who God is, or am I just doing what's comfortable for me? That one question can totally shift your focus from being self-centered to being God-honoring. All right, the second application is in our prayer life. And the whole idea here is to fight that urge to just rush in, like we're just checking a box or hitting up a buddy. The way we approach God in prayer really, really matters. So how do you do it? How do you pray with this mindset? Well, you start by taking a second to remember who you're talking to. You begin with reverence, with awe. And from that place of reverence, you then step into the amazing intimacy of relationship. You get both the holiness and the closeness. And really, that's what this all boils down to. When you understand it right, the fear of the Lord isn't meant to be terrifying at all. It's the very thing that keeps your relationship with God authentic and real. It saves it from becoming shallow by constantly reminding us of the beautiful, powerful, awesome reality of who God is. So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If you stop seeing fear as terror and you start seeing it as the very foundation of a profound, intimate reverence, how might that one little shift completely change the way you see God, the way you see yourself, and maybe everything in between?